Hello, fellow Crusaders, and welcome to our very special review of Ghostbusters Frozen Empire. This is going to be a non-spoiler and spoiler discussion with myself, Sean Waskrug, and with me, as always, is Brian Michaels. We're going to be doing two of these. We're going to be doing this, and we're also going to be doing Roadhouse, which also debuted on Amazon Prime, but we're going to do Ghostbusters here for you guys now. Yeah, Ghostbusters. This is a movie franchise. I guess it's a franchise more now than anything. Yeah, it's a movie. This is something, especially with the first Ghostbusters, going all the way back to '84. I mean, which before I was born. But I mean, I my whole life I followed Ghostbusters. I have the entire animated series on DVD downstairs. I've literally have Stay Puft right there and Slimer right up there. My arms are all over the place. It don't matter. But I literally have been a Ghostbusters fan all my life. I've watched the first two films ad nauseum. I mean, I can quote both those films verbatim, and I'm pretty sure you're at least the first one can do the same.
Yeah.
And then I remember they came out with the 2016 version with the girls, and that came and went. I think I ended up liking it a little more than you did, but that wasn't by a lot. I didn't love it. I just didn't think it deserved as much of the hate. Once it got past the first 30 minutes, that was. But I hated the first 30 minutes. After that, I was fine with it. But you and I were both very adamantly angry when we saw the first teaser trailer for Afterlife.
Was it angry? I don't know, anger.
We were upset because it didn't look like a Ghostbusters movie. It looked like just kids joyriding with the Echo One through the cornfields.
It was disappointment. It was because it was not what we expected at all. But it was just a teaser.
It was a teaser, and we were like, "Oh wow!" We went from like super excited to like, "Oh man, don't you dare mess this up!" But we both ended up loving Ghostbusters Afterlife. I literally just went back and rewatched it right before I went and saw Frozen Empire, and it still hit me the same it hit me the first time I saw, especially with that end with Egon. So for me, I was incredibly excited for this sequel. I was super amped up. It's one of my more anticipated films of the year. We had long conversations about this last year where Brian's like, this is not coming out. This is not coming out. Like, you're full of it. Writer's strike is what caused it.
Still wouldn't have made it
anyway. But here we are, Frozen Empire. The cast is in New York now. I was really wondering, were we going to get a legitimate explanation for how everyone from Afterlife was in New York?
You kind of did, but it was pretty flimsy.
Yeah, flimsy is a word to use for that. This takes place 3 years later. It's basically following the actual timeline. Afterlife was in 2021. We're now in 2024 in the movie, so we're basically going right into it. But yeah, general thoughts. Before we go into spoiler territory, let's go non-spoiler for the people who want to watch this without seeing the movie yet. What were your thoughts on Frozen Empire?
Well, yeah, I'm kind of, just to give a little background, I'm kind of the same as you. Ghostbusters has always been a part of my life. I did see it in the theaters multiple times when it first came out, and it's still probably my favorite comedy of all time, and it's probably one of my top 5 favorite films, period, of all time. I have the thing memorized front and back. It's just the quotes from that are the one kind that just like invade my vocabulary. I don't even realize I'm quoting it. I just quote it just naturally in conversations. So I love that. Ghostbusters 2, not as much. It's not quite the classic that it was, but it's still a lot of fun. Enjoyed that quite a bit.
It's beloved. It's beloved, even though it's not nearly remotely close to being as good.
Yeah, it's still good. It's just you can't live up to that original one.
Yeah.
The real Ghostbusters, I think I watched off and on, but the problem is by the time that came out, I was kind of I wasn't a kid anymore. I was kind of aged out of that. So I never really got into that. I didn't have any kind of dislike for it. I just didn't get into it as much as a lot of people. And so I actually am not familiar with a lot of the stuff in that. Just kind of, I watched a little bit here and there. 2016, we won't talk about that. It is dog shit, but not because it's women, just because it was done badly.
It was done really bad.
Yeah. Afterlife, you kind of already covered that. We ended up being really pleasantly surprised by that. Really enjoyed it quite a bit. Going into this one, I was optimistic, I guess, but I was kind of like, I don't know where they're going to go with it. I don't know, because it was kind of a self-contained story in this Oklahoma. It's like, so what are they going to do with it? Then we see the trailers and everything, find out they're coming back to New York and that. The trailers didn't really do a whole lot for me, but I was still kind of like hoping it'd be good. Having seen it, I enjoyed it, quite a bit, not as much as Afterlife. But I don't know, I kind of feel like I'm done with this story. I kind of feel like I don't really care about this Spengler family and all that kind of thing. Is fine for what it was, but I kind of wish they would kind of move on. But the problem is at this point, they're not gonna like reboot it again. And I don't know, I'm trying to go without spoilers. I
Don't
honestly
worry,
feel like
you won't do it for very long.
I know. But I honestly feel like what I've always wanted a Ghostbusters sequel to be, the movie that came the closest to the concept of what I want a sequel to be is 2016. Because I want to see a new team, fighting ghosts, just kind of continuing the legacy of them. Of course, 2016 decided to just completely pretend the other ones didn't exist, which I don't want to do. And it wasn't very funny, it wasn't very well done. But I feel like, like even just in this movie, there's the bones. If you had put like, Paul Rudd and Camille Nanjiani and Patton Oswalt, or whoever else, it doesn't have to be all men. You could put in women too, like even Kristen Wiig and
you
Kate
got Carrie
McKinnon.
Coon, Carrie Coon and McKenna Grace basically doing that as well.
Yeah, but I feel like with these comedic actors, if you had just gone forward and made a new, like a new Ghostbusters team, I really would. That's kind of what I really want a Ghostbusters movie to be. I don't buy the Spengler family. Suddenly, all of them are Ghostbusters because they have no training or anything in this. The original Ghostbusters were all paranormal. They studied the paranormal for years, and they're professors and things like that. And these people like, oh, we fought that ghost one time, so we'll be the new Ghostbusters.
And it really wasn't that they all fought. It was McKenna Grace and Finn Wolfhard and oh god, what's her name? Lucky and Podcast. They fought him. Paul Rudd was a dog, and Carrie Coon was a dog.
Exactly. They were Ghostbusters. Now, granted, Paul Rudd is a scientist, technically, a seismologist.
Yeah, Paul Rudd fits perfectly fine with this.
But he's basically the driver in this movie. Carrie Coon has no business being a Ghostbuster. Like McKenna even calls her out on it. This isn't really a spoiler. It just says, you just decided to become a Ghostbuster. And like, you're right. But even like Podcast and Lucky and them, it's just like, I don't want the Goonies version of Ghostbusters. I want just Ghostbusters. That being said, I did enjoy this movie quite a lot. I will go into it more in spoiler territory. It was a bit disappointing to me. Didn't live up to Afterlife, but I didn't hate it.
So what you were saying, what you wanted, was exactly what I wanted. I remember we literally one night, we didn't shoot it, so there's not an episode really of it. We were coming up with, who would be a great cast? Like who would be the four that we would cast in it? And honestly, Paul Rudd was one of them. And I want to say, I literally can't remember the group now, but Paul Rudd was definitely a part of it. That was before Afterlife even came out. We're like, oh, well, at least I got Paul Rudd's in there in a way. But and I feel like we kind of are getting that in this because we are getting new Ghostbusters, but you have it all tied up to the Spengler family. I mean, because technically, yes, these are new Ghostbusters. You got Gary, you've got Trevor, you've got I'm honestly blanking on Carrie Coon's mom's name.
She is Callie.
And then you got McKenna Grace's Phoebe. So I mean, they are the new Ghostbusters being bankrolled by Ernie Hudson, for the most part in this.
But it's just a family affair. I want like the original. I want a group of comedians, great comedians being funny.
No,
this movie didn't get too easy on the comedy. Yeah,
I agree. So what you were wanting, we're getting that, but not the way that we envisioned it, not the way we wanted it. We wanted it to be just for, kind of for the most part, 2016, except Leslie Jones was just like, oh, I work for the subway, so I know New York. That was kind of her thing. And then everyone else was, scientists, which, Ernie Hudson's character, he wasn't a scientist by any means, so he didn't. Why am I blanking? I know Zedmore is his last name. Why am I blanking on his first name? Winston, thank you. Winston wasn't a scientist. He just took an ad, so it's like you technically don't need them all to be scientists, but here's my problem, because I didn't like it. I didn't have fun with this movie. Granted, it's still a Ghostbusters film. There are things that I enjoy. Seeing Echo 1, hearing the sirens of the Echo 1, hearing the power up of the proton pack, seeing Slimer, seeing all these characters, and even the original cast for what we got of them in this movie. I enjoy those aspects. In all honesty, I actually enjoyed the Spanglers. I enjoy Paul Rudd. I enjoy Carrie Coon. I enjoy McKenna Grace. I enjoy, well, not really Finn Wolfhard. He was wasted in the first one. He's even more wasted in the second one. I enjoyed when the movie was letting them be Ghostbusters. Like, I loved the beginning. I thought the 1904 scene, I thought that was hauntingly well done. I thought that was really good. How they introduced the potential villain of the story, like especially like, and this is like I said, it's the first 5 minutes. I'm not spoiling anything crazy, but like I'm just gonna do this motion. You know what I'm talking about? I thought that was like, oh, that is terrifyingly good. Like, I loved the visual of that, and that's all I'm gonna say because Brian knows what I'm talking about. And then I loved the opening chase sequence. I mean, a little too family. Like, you know, obviously the mom's being the mom, which, you know, everyone's like, hey, you're a Ghostbuster, stop being our mom, like, you know, focus. But I enjoyed that opening sequence. After that, I wasn't really having fun with this anymore. There were brief moments here and there that I was like, okay, this is it's there. Here's the energy I'm looking for. But the problem is that they have an overstuffed plot. It takes an hour for this movie to actually finally get into the what is this big bad? What's going on? Because they have all this extra crap happening in the movie. And frankly, I just didn't care. I actually got remotely excited at this one point where you found out what Winston has been working on, which I won't say for spoiler reasons, but we'll talk about it here in a little bit. And I was like, oh, okay, this is like, all right. Because I was like, they can't keep doing the firehouse. Like, they gotta come up with something. And they're like, hey, we are. But here's these other characters. Let's throw Kumail Nanjiani in as this other character. Let's have a subplot for him. Let's have this other subplot for McKenna Grace's character, which we'll talk more into in the spoiler. And it was just at the end of it, I was like, I just don't care about any of this. You're not selling me on. There's one point where I think it's after the first like 30 minutes. Like, the next 30 minutes is like, oh my God, you're throwing so much different crap at the same time of different things, to the point where I was like, if anyone had went to the bathroom for 5 minutes, oh my God, you've missed everything you need to know, because you're going to come back and you're not going to know what the fuck's going on. And it ultimately, most of it didn't really matter at the end of the day. It didn't. And it frustrated me, because like I was about an hour into this film and I'm like, this isn't clicking with me. And I don't blame the cast. I don't blame anyone on the cast. It's a script situation. It's a director situation. Ivan Reitman did not come back. I don't, it's Gil.
Well, Ivan Reitman's dead. So Jason Reitman didn't come back either.
I'm sorry. Gil Keenan. Do we know him from anything? Has he directed anything that we've liked?
I think he directed something, but he's basically he was the co-writer of the first one.
He did Monster House. Mm-hmm. That's the only thing I could think of. Oh, and he did the
new Poltergeist,
which I didn't hate. But I'm sorry, I don't feel like he captured what the Ghostbusters are about. To me, this felt very much like Ghostbusters 2. Is Afterlife found its rhythm, it found its magic, it had its emotion, it had its comedy, it had all this stuff that made you think fondly of the original two films, mainly Ghostbusters. And then, just like with Ghostbusters started a huge thing, and Ghostbusters 2 came out and it's like, this feels like more like they're trying to sell toys and it's for the kids and stuff like that. Like, the humor's there, but it's not hitting the same way as Ghostbusters 1. Mm-hmm. And that's what this felt like too. It's like you're not. It's not. I'm not saying that it's not it's too kid friendly, because it's on the same level as Afterlife, but it just felt overstuffed. It felt meaningless at the end of the movie. But when the movie ended, I was just like, so that happened.
Well, like you
And
said, the original movie was it was really more of an adult comedy.
it was rated
And
R,
then
wasn't
the second one
it?
came out, like you
Ghostbusters.
said, they had put out toys, the cartoons, things were out by
Yeah.
then, so it was really kind of not quite the same vibe to it. Afterlife came out, we enjoyed that. Now, if I recall, I remember hearing an interview with Gil Keenan where he even said, going into this movie, that it was going to be almost more akin to the real Ghostbusters cartoon. It's kind of this, its own story, just in the style of storytelling, things like that. And I can totally see that. And that kind of goes into your whole thing about how it kind of feels like it's younger, it's not the same vibe kind of thing. And I get that. But then at the same time, like you said, the plot gets too complicated for little kids to
Over
really enjoy it.
complex.
Now,
Yeah.
I didn't find it super complex. 'Cause I mean,
No, what I mean, I'm not meaning complex like it confused me or anyway. I was never lost, but it was just more like once again they do the same formula that they do in every sequel. They did it with Guardians. They've done it with every sequel. I don't know why they keep doing this. Don't split the group up. Why? Why do you split the group up? Stop splitting them up.
I think
You,
in most movies, I think because in
it's probably
sequels when this
scheduling.
happens,
It's scheduling. Yeah.
it's because of scheduling. Because like a movie happens, and especially if it's a movie like Guardians, which kind of like catapulted people into bigger stars, things like that.
Yeah.
It's like, well, okay, now we have these bigger stars that are more in demand. They're doing more stuff. It's like we need scheduling to get them, together at the same time. It's like, well, maybe we can't get everybody together at the same time. We can get some of them. It's like,
But I mean, it's just it didn't. It felt like a sequel just to be a sequel, which is exact opposite. Which is what Ghostbusters 2 felt like. Was a sequel just to be a sequel. Now I was too young to understand that. I was 5 or I was 4 when Ghostbusters 2 came out. But when you go back and you watch Ghostbusters 1 and then you go back and watch Ghostbusters 2, it's like, oh, this felt like a cash grab sequel. Like you could tell that the guys, especially Bill Murray, he's not fully into this. Like he's there, but he's not giving it his all. And I'm not saying that the cast isn't giving it their all in Frozen Empire, but this just felt like a sequel to have a sequel because Afterlife was such a huge success, than a sequel that felt needed and earned.
yeah.
Now, I'm not saying if they come out with a third film, which they probably will, because it's still going to make money. I'm not against seeing all these people again. I'm not. I just think that they need a better screenplay. Just not dumb it down. I don't want that because that's gonna sound like this was too complex. But just narrow your field, narrow it down a little bit. Like Afterlife was simple. It was simple. It was, here's the plot. Egon passed away. This family's coming, and Gozer's back, or the Gozer's trying to come back. That's the plot. Here you got this thing going on with Grace, or with Phoebe. You got this thing going on with the old Ghostbusters. You have this thing going on with Gary and Callie. You got this going on with Slimer and Trevor. You got this going on with Kumail Nanjiani. You got this going on with the Ghostbusters headquarters. You got Peck. You got this. You got this. There's 18 fucking things going on, and none of them are getting. Well, some of them are getting a lot more screen time than they really should. And then there are others that deserve more screen time. You're getting down to the final 15 minutes of the movie, and the final boss hasn't shown up yet. Now, that reminds me a lot like every Ghostbusters movie, but this one seemed a lot bigger in scope of what it was supposed to be. And it
Well, 'cause
still felt
he
like,
was featured so much in the trailers. You saw
exactly.
it wasn't like they hid the final boss. It's like he was
Yeah.
featured in posters and trailers, and I'm waiting for him. Like, is he going to show up?
He literally shows up in the last 15 minutes. Now, granted, Gozer did in Ghostbusters 1 and
But they
Afterlife.
didn't put all the marketing behind that
And
Ghoster.
Vigo was in the last 15 as well, but Vigo's face and stuff was throughout Ghostbusters too.
Mhm.
This was just more, you kept talking about this dread. And honestly, the main villain of this whole fucking movie is two things. It's a golden ball, and it's a red laser pointer. To the point. Honestly, what I'm gonna call that thing. The little red thing. Oh, it's basically a laser pointer. he's like, that
Oh,
thing's
he's
gonna
the
go down.
possessor ghost or whatever you called him. Yeah.
Exactly. Whatever. I can't remember what they call it, but it's basically it's not an actual laser pointer, guys. It's this little red ghost that can inhabit anything. So you just see this little red light flicker around, going and then just inhabiting things. It's just a laser point pointing at shit. That's all it is. But like at the end of it, it ended, and I was like, it felt empty to me. It did. And there's a mid credit scene for anyone who wants to know. There's a mid credit scene. Now, from what I was told by not told, what I read by directors, is this is supposed to open up a gateway to potentially spin-offs or to another, maybe for the third movie, they'll go somewhere else with this. It didn't feel that way. It just felt like kind of a comedy Minions thing almost.
Oh yeah, the final scene.
Oh yeah, no,
The
they're saying
credit scene did nothing to open up anything new.
they're
No.
saying that's supposed to open up to spreading the story out further than New York. Which I'm like, that sounds like a bullshit answer for someone going, that's the thing you gave us. But yeah, I was like, I would say in terms of Ghostbusters levels, this is either right at or just under Ghostbusters 2 for me. Just because it felt like an empty sequel like Ghostbusters 2, but it lacks the fun and the magic that Ghostbusters 2 still gave us. It looks better, obviously, because technology and just from 89 to 2014 or 2024. But and like I said, it's not a cast problem. It's 1,000% nothing to do with the cast. I still enjoy the hell out of everyone, and even the new people that are in, I didn't, except for the nerd scientist guy.
I don't even know who that guy was.
I don't even know who he was. He was pointless through the film, and in the trailer, you look like he's gonna die in the trailer, and he's not. He doesn't. Everybody.
Oh,
but
James McCaster. He's like a British stand-up comedian. They just decided to shove him in.
Yeah, his character was pointless through this whole damn film. But it's just, I was incredibly disappointed. I was so excited for this movie, and Brian knows how excited I was for this.
Yeah, I feel like I got my disappointment out of the way when the trailers or just the story was we kind of knew what it was going to be about.
I thought the trailer looked fun. It looked like they're letting Paul.
No, I mean in terms of like I said, because like at the end of the last movie, it made sense for the first movie to be the Spengler family and that whole saga they told there, and at the end of Afterlife, you see Winston going back to the firehouse, which earlier they said was a Starbucks. So
I caught that too. And I was like, wait,
a little continuity there, but Winston went back there, and it was clear that he was going to kind of start up the Ghostbusters again. And like I'm like, okay, cool. That we can go on to the next movie. He can have created a new team of Ghostbusters. You can have Ray and Peter and Winston being like, hey, we're too old for this shit. We got to bring in some new blood to run it. I would even be okay if they said, if now that they have some money or whatever, if the Spenglers move back to move to New York.
That was a thing that confused the hell out of me too. Apparently, Winston's rich beyond repair at this point, but yet they were still like not. I mean, they had some cool new tech, but they didn't give it to like them. They had it for this like extra area that you find out in the movie.
But they're still researching and rebuilding.
I get that, but the firehouse is still falling apart.
But my thing is, if they wanted to say, okay, they're going to bring on Phoebe on as like a junior Ghostbuster in training or something like that, that makes sense. But I didn't like that the whole family was now Ghostbusters. If they kind of suited up for a scene at the end, because they needed extra help, to be one thing, but like they're the team, which I didn't really like that. I wanted to see new blood brought in as the new Ghostbusters team. Yeah. So, but anyway, so when the trailer came out for this,
tie it up so we can get to the spoiler.
So the trailer came out, I'm like, this is not what it's going to be, and I kind of felt okay. I've come to terms with that, and so when I watched the movie, I wasn't really super disappointed. I'm like, I enjoyed the movie for what it was, even if it wasn't what I wanted. So I still liked it. I ended up giving it a 3.5 stars on Letterboxd. So
yeah, for me, it wasn't even that I was mad. I was just like, is this it? Like, is this what I'm getting? Because it just like I said, it felt empty to me, which I didn't want to feel that way. So I was greatly disappointed, but I wasn't like upset. It was just like, I hope this doesn't stop them from ever making anymore. Like, I hope they continue to make Ghostbusters movies. I don't want Ghostbusters to go away. I hope. Well,
Sony created their whole Ghost Core.
Yeah, I was like, they really created a whole studio now for this.
Even before the last film, they had done that because they had plans to do live action films, and then I think they're still planning to do an animated film at some point.
Yeah,
and things like that. So I'm sure the saga will continue. I just personally, I kind of wish they'd move on from this whole Spengler family thing, but I'm sure they won't.
And honestly, I'm cool if they continue with them, but maybe it's just Phoebe and Gary. Maybe Callie decides she doesn't want to do it anymore, or maybe Callie is like, you know what, I'll run the headquarters. I'll run like the building and stuff like that. And then Trevor, he just decides to go off somewhere because no one fucking
let's see Ghostbusters Los Angeles and see a different team they've set up a franchise over here.
And you can send Venkman there because Venkman would probably love being in Los Angeles and shit. There's comedy there, but for me, it got the lowest I could give a 3-star film, which is a 55%. I just was greatly. It looked good. Nothing looked bad. The cast is not bad. It's strictly just the story, the script, and the direction of this that failed miserably for me. But we hope you guys enjoyed the non-spoiler review. We are now going to go into spoilers. So this is your spoiler warning. I will say this about the trailer. There is so many things in that trailer that is not in the movie. You don't have the spot with them all wearing the red suits on the roof and Paul Rudd going, oh, that's not in there. There's a part where it looks like Lucky was going to die or get frozen to death. That didn't happen in the trailer. Hell, the joke with Peck going like sustained, overruled, that was not in the movie. It's just, there was a lot of like moments in this trailer that were not on the final cut of this film. Which
I mean, it's not uncommon because movies are still being edited when trailers come out, but seems like there was an awful lot of them in this movie.
It was a lot, which makes me feel like there was a lot of reshoots, which makes us feel even more so like what's going on.
I don't know as a reshoots as just they edited it down and certain things got cut out that they ended up not using.
Because the whole time I kept watching the show, I was like, are they going to kill Lucky off? Because wow, ballsy to kill one of the kids off.
Which I'd have been fine with because she had no reason to be there.
Trevor, that was my problem with this film. You already had a cast. You grew this cast in the first film. You bring them into the second movie, and you did nothing. Trevor spent the whole movie doing one thing or two things. I'm 18. I'm an adult. And Slimer. You brought Slimer back. I mean, you didn't really do much with him, but Slimer's Slimer. He's just going to kind of be there to do little things.
At the end, you got to do the exact same thing as the last film, which is fight off the little marshmallow guys so you can help them at the end.
No, that's Podcast. Podcast was doing it. What the fuck?
Oh, that's what I meant. Sorry.
What the fuck was the point of Podcast in this movie?
Podcast, they say, was there as an intern with Ray, and it's like, but of course he told his parents he was at space camp, and I'm like, that seems like a really flimsy reason to have him be there. He come from Oklahoma to New York for no reason.
He spent most of the movie just walking around being what's his name, the comedian with the hammer, Gallagher. He just kept going around just hammering shit. He wasn't funny anymore. He didn't have that chemistry with him and McKenna Grace was gone in this. And he was just kind of there. Like he didn't contribute to anything at all. It was just more or less like, oh, we got to have him back because everyone loved him in the first film, which we did, but not at the expense of how we got him. And then
Lucky for me was even worse because she decides to intern with Winston's, whatever they call it, ghost research or whatever
headquarters
for no reason that she would be involved in this except to have her back in the movie, which I didn't need her back in the movie because she was pretty, disposable in the first one, to be honest.
Well, that and it made it seem like her and Trevor were still in communication with each other because they still acted like they were kind of like, are they a couple? Are they not a couple? Kind of thing. But then he didn't even know she was there, so he was like, "Hey, you're here." She's like, "Yeah." I was, "Oh, I thought you said you got an internship. I didn't think you were doing this." It's like, well, then if you knew she had an internship, weren't you asking where the hell she is then? Because there was just like I said, the script didn't add up with their characters.
Trevor, and the fact they gave both characters the exact same reason for being in New York, even though they're in separate places, like that's lazy. Come on.
It is, and because I remember we were getting ready to go to the movie, and I was telling my girlfriend, I was like, I hope they give a reasonable explanation for how they got Podcast in New York. Lucky makes sense because Lucky's old enough; she can go there. But it's like they're all in Oklahoma. Callie has no money, so they had to go to Oklahoma for a reason. Now, I guess Winston could, move them there and, help him take care of that stuff. But it's like, how are you going to get Podcast there? Podcast has family. He's a kid. Now, granted, they jump ahead.
Like you said, it's like the fact nobody knew they were there. And it's like, they're the one people in this entire city from Oklahoma or here. And you don't tell them you're there? I don't.
Yeah, it's just, okay. Give me clarification on this. It's one or the other. I'm leaning more towards this than this. Are we supposed to believe at this point, not believe, but just in terms of how the characters plot, is Phoebe a lesbian or is she just really desperate for another friend? Because they were playing this storyline with Melody. And I was like, because it's one place like they're not going full but the way Phoebe's acting is like, does she have a thing for Melody? Because the things that she's doing makes it seem like it's a crush, but it's like they didn't want to fully go all the way with it, which irked the hell out of me.
First of all, I can't call her Melody. I just called her Snakebite Annie the entire time.
Oh yeah, the first time I saw her, I was like, Snakebite Annie, or what's her name in the Babysitter films, because she's in the Babysitter movies.
Oh yeah, I don't know her name for that.
Yeah,
but I definitely kind of had that same thing. Like, I mean, obviously she's always been socially awkward, and she wants to find a friend and find her place and stuff like that. But I definitely felt like they were kind of going towards a little something a little more. But they didn't want to make it too overt because they might turn off some of their audience, and so it's like we just kind of hint at it.
It's like, once again, it's like, if you're gonna do it, just fucking do it. I'm not gonna be mad. I don't care. Just make it make sense. What Phoebe does in the movie to make everything happen, Phoebe would never be that stupid. Phoebe would never be that stupid. Now, once again, script decisions. If Lucky was not in the movie or not doing whatever, and Trevor's, first off, Melody or Emily, oh god, what's her real name?
Emily Ellen Lind.
She looks way older than McKenna Grace. So, and she's supposed to be 16, and McKenna Grace is 15 in the movie. No, they don't look at all the same age. Now, if Trevor had seen her, Trevor would be stupid enough to do these things, to be, oh wow, ghost girl, a hot ghost girl who thinks I'm It would make sense that the whole plan that the bad guy has using Melody and all this kind of stuff, it would make sense with Trevor. Trevor's stupid. Trevor's not bright. Trevor would do what she did at the lab and open the ball and stuff like that. All that shit makes sense if Trevor do it. It does not make sense for Grace to do, or I keep saying Grace because it's her real last name, Phoebe. It would not make sense for Phoebe to do that. And that's what irked me through this whole movie. It's like, Phoebe, it's like, okay, if we're supposed to buy that Phoebe's gay, okay, fine, but you need to fucking go full, like, if there's that moment where she's like, she turns into a ghost for 2 minutes, maybe they shared a kiss. Like, okay, cool. You did it. You fully embraced it. Okay. Because what other reason was there for you to do this unless you had a huge crush on the girl and you never felt this way before? But you never give, once again, plot points. That would have been a very strong plot point if you decide to actually go for it. You didn't. You played it safe. You couldn't decide whether it was a friend thing or not, and she's alone because she's being left at the firehouse. Okay, but if you're going to do it, just fucking go for it. But once again, in terms of plot points, Phoebe's not dumb enough to pull that shit off, but Trevor is. Would have given Finn Wolfhard a lot more to do than just go upstairs and try to trick Slimer. And so that whole part just rubbed me the wrong way, because I'm watching, I was like, I don't buy that Phoebe would be this stupid. Teenager or not, I get it, teenage hormones. No, Phoebe's character always acts almost like a Sheldon Cooper from Big Bang Theory. She would not have done that. That's so fucking far out of character that it took me out of it, because I was like, she wouldn't do that. Lucky maybe could have done it. Trevor could have done it, especially Lucky, because Lucky is at that place. Lucky knows how that shit works. But I couldn't. It irked me so much. And nothing against Emily.
Ellen Lind.
Because I thought she was good. I like her. I like her and everything. I think she's great. But they gave her so much screen time. that story arc had so much screen time. And then, like, it went away for like 20 plus minutes. And then it came back. And then it went away. And then it came back. And it was just like, this either needs to be a focal point or not. But it is the crutch that gets you from point A to point D to the final act. It just didn't that plot point really just irked the fuck out of me. And Kumail Nanjiani, I love Kumail. This didn't work.
I liked him in this movie, honestly.
Once again, I have nothing against him.
I had no problem with his storyline.
When he came strolling down the fucking pole wearing the whole deal, I was like, okay. At this point, I was already like, I'm not. I see what you're doing. I don't hate it, but at this point, this movie's already kind of going down. And
for me, it's like he already made himself out to be kind of this goofy character, and like he wanted to try out the fire pole and all these kind of things, and then he finds out that he is the what they call the fire master, So he has his power, and then he knows that outfit, that brass outfit, is gonna protect him and make him able to fight back
Once
against
again,
the.
he does not know that. He does not know that. Phoebe, Dan Aykroyd, and podcast know that, but we never get that conversation that he
He was in the
knows.
room with them when they were talking about how the brass,
You're
the whole
acting
room was
like
brass,
his
and the whole
character,
costume was there and everything.
his character through that whole movie would not have been paying attention or following any of that conversation.
Especially once he realized he was the fire master and he sees that this is the outfit. It's like I felt like it was not out of character for him to suit up and try to come and do his thing, and it
We
worked
also
for me.
talk about the
I actually
cringiness.
wish it had more goofy stuff in the movie like that, because that's what this was
Like I said,
missing.
when the movie was being
Afterlife 2 for
Ghostbusters,
me was missing goofy comedy like the originals.
when the movie was being Ghostbusters, I enjoyed it. The problem is that the movie wasn't being Ghostbusters. For a good chunk of the film, it didn't feel like it was being that movie. Like I said, it didn't. It felt empty. It did not feel like Ghostbusters. Hell, Ghostbusters 2 didn't feel a whole lot like Ghostbusters to a point. You'd have the montage thing. That's the other thing this movie was missing too. This is the first Ghostbusters movie, I'm pretty positive, that when the bad guy shows up, usually, and especially when he releases all the ghosts, we get that montage of all the ghosts attacking New York City. We didn't get that in this movie. Why? Because we were running out of fucking time. This movie was so like, oh yeah, we got like 10 minutes to kind of end this. It's like we didn't get to see like you see the ghost shoot out of the firehouse, you see him kind of flying around town, but we didn't get the like fun, like, oh, here's the here's the Titanic showing up, or here's the ghost ordering a coffee at the diner. Like we didn't get that moment. We've gotten that in like all the movies, even 2016. We didn't get that in this one. There was no like fun Ghostbusters montage moment in this film. It was pretty much they did that opening chase sequence, and then they immediately got in trouble with Peck, and then they kept going out to calls, but we never really got to see the calls, which, once again, that's the Ghostbusters. We didn't get that. Instead, we got this friend or lesbian love story with Phoebe. And then we got her and Stance and podcast going to the library, which I could have done without the 2-minute long exposition, but you had to explain it somewhere with Patton Oswalt. But then we did get a fun moment there with Library Ghost. I thought that was fun callback because it made sense that she would still be there. And then you had the lion.
They
thing,
never got her.
Yeah. Once again, the lion thing didn't make sense either, because literally all these cops see this lion about to attack, and Phoebe destroys it, and yet she got in trouble. They all saw the lion attacking and coming at them, but yet they're acting like she just blew it up and it was frozen, and she just blew it up. That's, once again, it does not make sense.
That was always like, that's always my problem with Ghostbusters, even in especially like Ghostbusters 2 and things like that, when they were all, they got sued by the city and then by the time you get to Afterlife, they're saying, oh, that the people, doubt that things really happened. It's like, there's everybody saw it happen. I never understood how they just explained it away.
But that's, I mean, once again, it's one of those things where people refuse to believe it. It's no different than you see people who like, people with cases of like they were trying to jump off the building and a cop or a firefighter pulled them off the building before they jumped, and they twisted their arm or whatever, and then they sued them. And it's like, you were the one on the freaking building trying to jump off the building. It's like all these people wanted to also like, hey, we can probably sue for this and make money, right? Oh, I didn't see no ghosts. Yeah, these guys are just shooting shit. It's all, you could have said that. That's New York. I mean, they could have done that crap.
Yeah.
But it's just, and then the whole Peck thing, cool callback. But you didn't. They didn't utilize Peck the way they should have. Peck was there.
How did you want them to use it? I thought he was utilized perfectly.
I felt like Bill Murray and Peck should have had a better moment than what we got.
I think Bill Murray is in this movie so little, and most of the time he's standing around. He has like 5 lines in this movie.
He does.
And I feel like at this point he's just like, I'll show up for a day or two and do some shooting, but I don't really want to be a big part of this.
You've got Peck and Murray back in this, or Venkman, and once again, where's Sigourney in this? We know she's there. We know he's married to her, at least.
Yeah, I would have liked to see Sigourney in this. I was surprised.
Sigourney. I mean, we don't know if Rick Moranis is around, because they never acknowledged him.
Because he doesn't want to work anymore.
Well, I know, but I like Janine being around. That's another thing in the trailer. Janine answering the phone like she was still working at the headquarters. That wasn't in the movie either. But there was just so many things that it didn't work. Like, and one thing I heard, and I heard this from a I think it was like a Twitter Twitter review, or it was a Letterboxd review. They were like, oh my god, the old cast completely overtakes the movie. No, they didn't. The old cast,
No.
I think the old cast is used very well in this. I think
I think Winston and Ray are perfectly used in this
they're
movie.
perfectly used.
I think Janine is perfectly used. She's not in it a whole lot, but I think that's
No.
for her character. That was perfect
No.
amount of use her
There
character.
was nothing wrong with
Venkman, I
any
think, is
of them.
underused, but again, I think that's because Bill Murray doesn't want to be used more. So
Yeah.
I thought it was fine. They didn't overtake
I
it at
had
all.
no, because the whole time I'm watching, I'm like, because I heard this before I saw it, and I was like, all right, we'll see. And I'm watching, I'm like, they're fine. Like,
Yeah.
where Ray's being used would make sense for Ray to be used there. Where
And
Winston's
I thought
being
he was really good.
used,
Venkman, I thought pretty much all his lines fell flat to me, but that's part of the delivery. But yeah,
I think, and honestly, it's just because I don't know if Bill Murray cares enough to be funny
he
anymore.
doesn't
He's
care.
just there to collect a paycheck. He's how Bruce Willis was in his last few films or last 5 years of movies, and other actors when they get to that certain age, they're just like, I'm just here, which sucks, but it's also like we get it. It's no different than watching, for my wrestling, fans, it's no different watching a very, very old wrestler get in the ring. You're like, oh man, he doesn't have it anymore. Yeah, he's fucking 65. He shouldn't have it anymore. I hope to God he doesn't. Get him out of the ring. But it's like, it's just, yeah, the movie just, it bummed me out because it's like there was so much potential there. And it's just, like I said, you had these characters. Paul Rudd, I thought, was fine in the film, but he was kind of reluctantly stuck in the, oh, I don't know how to act around these kids, because it's like they're not married, they're not.
That's what I was unclear because at the beginning I'm like, okay, they're still not married. Then later on, especially like when at the beginning when she calls him dad, I'm like,
Yeah.
I stopped and thought to myself, wait, are they married? Because
I
no,
never
because
saw
why would
a
you call them
ring
dad
on
if they're not
either one of
married?
their.
I don't understand.
I never saw a ring on either one of their fingers. But like I felt like Carrie Coon she was playing the same character from the first one.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't see any growth other than that she's a Ghostbuster now. She's embraced the Ghostbusterness of it all, but I didn't see anything in the movie that I felt was growth for her character. I felt like she was just playing the same
She was
character.
still mostly just Phoebe's mom.
Yeah, she was mainly Phoebe's mom and Gary's girlfriend, and there was not like outside of just her outright hatred for Egon in the first film, there was no new thing with him. Trevor, once again, I'm 18, let me drive, Slimer. That's it. That's all he had in the film. He didn't have anything else.
But
In this movie.
you had the perfect idea. They should have had him be the one to fall for
Melody.
what's her name? Melody.
Yeah. It's just it just. But it's. I feel like I know the whole reason why they didn't do that is because, well, what's McKenna Grace gonna do? She's locked down. She's on lockdown. What else is she gonna do? You could have her. There's other things.
She's kind of the main character. She's like your main Ghostbuster, essentially.
How about this? You don't bench her.
Yeah, instead of benching her, yeah.
You don't bench her. That's what you do. You just don't bench her. But and then like I said, podcasts. There was no point for podcasts in this movie. If anything, it just made me go, "Hey, kid grew into his looks. He's actually a good-looking kid, and you utilized him horribly in this movie because every 5 seconds, like I swear to God, he brings out that fucking hammer again, and sure enough, here comes the hammer. And it's like, what's the point of you in this movie outside of, hey, it's the kid from the first movie? It's basically like pitch meeting. Like, oh yeah, and then there's podcast. Hey, he was in the first film. That's what he felt like he was in this movie for. And it's just, there's stuff to like. I didn't hate the movie, but damn it, this movie frustrated and disappointed the hell out of me. And yes, this will probably, shocker, and something has to greatly fuck up now by mid-year for this not to be my number one most disappointed film of the year.
So this movie actually turned out to be exactly what I expected, honestly. I kind of feel like
this is the funny thing. The way I'm feeling is the way I thought you were going to feel last year with Indiana Jones, but you had already you had already gotten so like unprepared for this to suck that you didn't get disappointed by it. Whereas I am exactly where you should have been for Indiana Jones last year, and I should be feeling the same things I'm feeling right now. But you were so already just like ready for everything to just be awful that you didn't. You're like, I didn't mind it. And it's like, no, you should be angry because I'm angry and I don't love Indiana Jones as much as you do. But it's like, join me, will you? Fuck. But,
no, I enjoy this movie more than you. It just happens.
And that's fine. But it's like I felt like I liked I liked where they were going with the research facility. I think there was a lot of great points in there. Hey, a new unit can store, I think it was like what, 5.5 million whatever of ghosts or whatever. I liked that they were studying them. I liked every concept of it, but it was how they utilized it in the film, or more or less the cast in there, because it was basically Lucky and this British guy that had zero personality, zero character, zero everything. This character, and then I also love that what was it? The potato like spits slime at him, and then he's just gone for the whole final battle.
You know who I felt that he was trying to be, and who should have been funnier, is Stephen Merchant. I felt like he should have been in the role.
You know what? That's 1,000% what he was. He was young.
He's Stephen like Kmart Stephen Merchant. Yeah,
absolutely. I 100% agree with you. But it's just like he's completely missing in the whole final. Not that he would have done much, except cross the streams and shot with them. But it was just like I'm watching the final battle, and I'm like, where the fuck is the other dude? Like he got he got slimed by the potato, and then he just shows me like, did we win? Where the fuck were you, dude? It's just like, I get he got hurt earlier, but still, it's just like he was just completely. Once again, you had too many characters that you completely just lost a character in the middle of the final battle.
But that whole part with the part that he was in, with the whole the Winston's research facility, whatever, I forgot what they called it. But I feel like that, if anything, is the thing that can open the door to expand the franchise in the future. And I almost wonder, like, was there an end credit sequence that got cut that involved that? 'Cause certainly it wasn't the little marshmallow things.
Which I love the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. I do, but these little marshmallow,
the little ones are fun. I think like in this one,
don't go minions on us with this.
That's in this one. I felt like. Oh, in the last one too. I felt like they were used perfect. They were there. They were fun little things, but there was never a huge focus on them. It was never a big plot point about the mini marshmallows. It was just kind of a fun thing. And I thought there was just enough of them without being too much. If they're trying to do something with that in the future, God.
Which according to what the director says they are, which
if you want to make that into an animated thing or something, maybe, but don't make it a photo. Yeah, shorts. It'd be perfect for like shorts.
Yeah,
but don't make it a focus of the franchise. And I think that if they use the research facility and kind of can expand it into new tech, new team members, things like that, then this has a future. If we continue to kind of follow the Spengler family, I'm kind of like, eh.
Here's the part that makes no sense to me. Is at the end of Afterlife, they all got destroyed because they were all connected to Gozer. But yet in this movie, they're all following podcasts. They're not following anyone else. They're focused on podcasts. And they're apparently mating, according to podcasts, because they're just growing. But can we also talk about the cringiness of the scene where Kamel takes them into the back room, and like Lucky and Trevor are just making sex joke after sex joke after sex joke, like trying to be edgy comedy, and it just came off kind of sad and like reaching. It's like, oh, there's change. We know how those are used. It's like, don't act like you two have been doing anything, like, because Trevor's got zero. It was just, it felt forced. It felt very, very forced in that scene. Because even Kamel's like, can you guys please stop making sex jokes in my grandma's like back room?
That was funny.
No. His line was funny. Their lines weren't funny. It's theirs weren't matching Kamel. Kamel's great. I love Kamel. Like I said, nothing about him in this movie I disliked. It was how they utilized him. I felt like they could have utilized him a little bit more. But I didn't want him to go full on like Last Airbender, like he was starting to do. Now at the very end, once again he got Ray Skywalker. He went from like, I can do this to whoosh. It's like, dude, no, you have not learned that power yet. Like stop. Now if like his grandmother's ghost had shown up in the midst of all the ghosts coming in, and she then inhabited his body, and then all of a sudden he then had that. Makes sense. Oh, now he knows how to firebend.
Or you could have her assist him and have it be kind of a callback to Egon with Phoebe.
Yeah, exactly. Once again, that makes it make sense. This is not hard, guys. We don't get paid for this, but we're coming up with better logical ways to make this shit make sense. But I felt like the whole first hour once again, is that they were trying to add like 18 storylines, and then they realized, oh shit, we got 15, 20 minutes left. Let's just fast forward and get to this thing. It was like you're missing the essence of what Ghostbusters is. You're missing the ghosts attack New York. You're missing the moment where, basically, now granted, Peck is the mayor, so he wasn't going to go get me the Ghostbusters. It's just more or less like, oh, we'll trap him in front of the camera and then he has to praise us, which that's fine. But it's just, there were things, and it's not me being nostalgia. It's just there's bullet points in Ghostbusters movies that you have to hit,
Mm-hmm.
and they missed so many bullet points that you need to hit for a Ghostbusters movie to hit right. Hell, even Afterlife in Oklahoma, they still had the ghosts are running rampant on the town kind of thing. It was very, very short, but there was never, you didn't have the Ghostbusters montage. You didn't have the ghosts inhabiting New York when they got let loose. You didn't have the goofiness, the fun goofiness factor, because it was, and I think it's more or less because it was the family. You couldn't have those moments, and you could have, honestly, if you would have done the Trevor and Melody storyline, you could have actually had some fun with that. You could have some real fun with that, but they chose not to do it. I just, this movie bugged me. Like I said, it's a Ghostbusters movie, so it's not like, I'm not as mad about this as I was with like Jurassic World Dominion or Fallen Kingdom. I'm not even remotely close to that. It's just, I watched it and I'm just like, oh, you guys could have done so much more with this. And you didn't, which was what was Dominion, but Dominion was so fixated on like locusts and shit. And it's just like, you guys lied to us. This is not the movie you guys promised. Ghostbusters, granted, there's a lot of stuff in the trailer that wasn't in the movie, but the baseline was still there. Like, we still got the movie that they were technically promising us. It just wasn't as good as what they promised us. The trailer promised us, well, not to you. You thought the trailer was meh, but the trailer to me promised me more than what we got. It wasn't a Dominion situation where we felt like we got kind of hustled. But yeah, it's just, like I said, it's still 3 stars, but it's just, it's the lowest 3-star I could give this year. Anything else you'd like to add?
No, although I will say, just because you mentioned it earlier, as far as rankings, this is probably my 4th highest as well. But for me, it's like Ghostbusters the original, Afterlife. Just below that is kind of Ghostbusters 2 and this, and then way down here is 2016, which I pretend doesn't exist. So I mean, it is like you, it's ranked 4th probably for me if I'm going to do a ranking of them, but it's a lot closer for me than it is for you.
Yeah,
but that's all.
I mean, yeah. So we hope you guys enjoyed this review. If you guys did, go and hit that like, share, subscribe to the channel. Let us know what your thoughts were. Did you like Frozen Empire? Did you not like Frozen Empire? Now this is a spoiler conversation, so you guys can type all the stuff you want. You guys don't have to worry about spoiling anybody, but let us know what you guys' thoughts were. Where does this rank on your Ghostbusters list? Is it rank kind of where we're at, or did you love it? If you guys loved it, I'm fucking happy for you. I want this to succeed. I want us to continue with this stuff. I really, really do. It's just this movie didn't work for me, and it seems like it kind of worked, but didn't at the same time for Brian. But next, we're going to be coming back here. We're going to be doing this again, but this time for Roadhouse on Amazon Prime. I feel like this is going to be a fun conversation because I already kind of know where Brian's head's at. And I feel like we're somewhat in agreement, but also like on the farthest path of it. So I can't wait to have this conversation with him. So check out that. Also, Brian and myself will be back again for Movie Crusaders Chat About. We're going to be talking about the first 2 episodes of X-Men 97. We're also going to be talking about the latest Bond news that we're both real excited for, as well as many trailers that have dropped.
Whole lot of trailers.
Whole lot of trailers. Good God. It's like
Get
that.
Ready for summer season. Yeah.
Yeah, we've got a ton of stuff to talk about. So be on the lookout for that. But until next time, in case we don't see you, go watch some movies and go have some fun.
You're still here. It's over. Go home.